All right, all right. Hey there. It is a Friday, and my name is Benjamin Krause. Today, I wanted to talk with you about some new legislation that is set to potentially go through that the Senate Veteran Affairs Committee is thinking about. So this came to my attention because of an unrelated but unfortunately also wrapped in matter where the Senate Veteran Affairs Committee was considering cutting the GI Bill for veterans who are aspiring pilots. That's right. So right before Christmas, as we're walking into the holiday season and before Hanukkah and everything else is about to happen, the Senate was considering and outlining whether to pass a boatload of veteran legislation that has been basically wrapped up and being sold to members of the committee as being non-controversial and having to do with veteran health care. And so everyone is like, well, it's not controversial. It's only about health care. Who really cares, right? So what we learned, myself and some other individuals that have been working on this and related matters affecting veteran benefits, is that part of the legislation in Section 217 that was just removed had to deal with the long-standing argument about whether to cap tuition payments using the GI Bill for veterans who are trying to become aviators on fixed wing, or I should say aviators through public education. Pretty expensive. Right now, the law allows for veterans attending a public university or college to get it covered, but this legislation was set to cut that, right? So this is about to happen going into Christmas, and we started looking at it. Fortunately, myself and a few other people jumped out there. At least one lobbyist that I'm aware of on Capitol Hill and other individuals got that pulled. So this is a 217. It is part of an act that is basically, and I'll get the long-term name of it here. So basically what is going out is the Joseph Maxwell Cleland and Robert Joseph Dole Memorial Veterans Benefits and Healthcare Improvement Act of 2022. Okay, so this is about to get rolled out, right? And brought for vote. They don't want any amendments to it. They just want it to be a slam dunk for everybody. Everyone goes home for Christmas and Hanukkah. Good to go. Well, apparently there are some individuals that are concerned, including myself, and we were able to get the part about the GI Bill at least removed. But that left another real interesting part in the legislation, which is Section 203, Enhanced Loan Underwriting Methods. That's also being included. And so what we noticed is that this legislation is actually a cut and paste from the House Bill 4657 from 2021 that was introduced by Mike Levin out of California. So it was called the Veteran Home Energy Savings Act. And here's what matters. This act, if it's brought forward here and Congress doesn't stop and put everything on hold until everyone comes back from the holidays, could result in a very significant problem for veterans down the road as it relates to getting the home loan. It's going to increase red tape because the goal of this, and I'll just read what's not here in Section 203, but is in the original official title as introduced, and what it's explained to do is that it's to, quote, improve the accuracy of mortgage underwriting for home loans guaranteed by the Department of Veterans Affairs by ensuring that energy costs are included in the underwriting process and for other purposes. So what this legislation is actually going to do, and one thing to point out here, is that it has been opposed by the Department of Veterans Affairs. So the Department of Veterans Affairs is well aware that this legislation shouldn't be passed. And they told Congress as much in writing, and that they know that not only is it going to cause potentially put veterans at a disadvantage who are trying to get access to a home, but it may, in addition to that, change how the VA has to structure its calculators. And so one thing that I didn't think of in looking at this, but that VA had commented on when they had said that they don't support this legislation in full, is that it would require them to recalibrate how they handle the debt to income ratio calculations. and they would actually have to change. So the VA, if this gets through, and again, this is being hotlined right now in the Senate, at the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, are looking to get this through. They don't realize that it's controversial. They probably don't realize, and maybe their staffers didn't dig out, that VA has already come out against this for a few different reasons, but one of them being that they would have to, quote, create a new underwriting framework, right? A new underwriting framework. So the VA would have to create something whole cloth that's new, that's not being utilized by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and they're going to have to put this out. It's going to put veterans at an even further disadvantage because it's going to change how the VA requires, or what they require from companies potentially like Veterans United. And these big mortgage brokerages are going to have to recalibrate how they work with veterans that are trying to get home loans. So it's as if we don't have enough red tape as it is. So I started digging into this a little bit more. And what they're basically looking at is trying to require what a short name is HERS reports, Home Energy Rating Systems. These come right out of California, which makes sense because Mike Levin is a California representative, and they are from a company. The short name is RESNET. Long name, I'll put it up here, is Residential Energy Service Network, Inc. I got the rest of this information, including the EIN, off of their most recent IRS Form 990 that's online, so you can see where they're, what they do, who's involved, etc., things like that. Anyway, they have their lobbying company listed there, which I don't recall. Winning Strategies. I think it's called Winning Strategies Washington or something like that. But anyway, so they've been able to get this in. And so what that means is that if this legislation gets through, so this is basically the Cleveland Dole Act, if it gets through, it's going to require the VA to make significant changes to how it does its underwriting, which in turn also means they're going to have to create out of whole cloth an underwriting system and finance that underwriting system that will then be used by companies like RESNET and others to roll out this environmental integration. So the environmental integration, and RESNET on its own website talks a little bit about what they're focused on, which is essentially, and I'll quote this, a net zero residential energy sector by 2040. And so RESNET, according to their own website, is leading the charge for a more energy efficient America. Learn about our vision, mission, and goals, right? Great website. They look really good. Obviously, they have a really solid lobbying group because they've been able to get this included in this apparently like a kind of omnibus or a super veteran bill before Christmas for potentially a vote if we're not careful. And they are going to increase the amount of red tape the veterans are already facing when they try to get a veteran home loan. So one thing I want to talk about here is my own experience and experience of others when we're trying to use the VA home loan. When you try to use it, you will be cautioned by realtors, both on the buyer side and the seller side, that will tell you that the VA home loan is not a good way to go and to use it as kind of a last resort. Now, that seems like a strange thing for a veteran benefit, but they tell you, and it's been my experience, that when you use the VA home loan, your offer, even if it's a little bit above, will be kind of viewed in a diminished light because all these realtors believe that there's a lot of red tape, and it's kind of true when it comes to using a VA home loan versus a conventional loan. Even Dave Ramsey says that it's essentially a trick, and he discourages people using the VA home loan. It's well known in many circles, including realtor circles, that it increases a lot of red tape. It decreases the odds that any particular deal may go through. And a lot of individuals, especially in the seller's market, are going to turn their nose at an individual veteran trying to use the VA home loan. So it's just one of those things. It's hard to use at times, especially in the seller's market. And if you're competing against even the same price person, who's giving the same type of offer, if they're conventional, odds are you're going to lose unless that person really wants it to go to a veteran. Now, what's unfortunate here is we're using this kind of example and what the net effect of it will be if it gets through, this quote enhancement. If it gets through, what it will do is it will force the VA to change how it does its underwriting and how underwriters also operate within their systems, right? So it's going to be a pretty significant change that the VA is going to have to build out. No one else is doing this within the federal arena, as far as I can tell. But what would happen, just like a lot of things, and whether or not RESNET meant to do this, or whether or not their lobbyists realize that this would be a thing, is that it will force VA to develop the software, likely by a third party. So contract dollars will go out. It'll be more tech. It'll cause more problems because God knows when VA introduces new technology, whether it's done by themselves or a third-party provider or vendor, there's always all kinds of problems for a very long time. I can almost guarantee you that if this gets through, there's going to be significant challenges getting VA home loans done in a timely way. And that is part of what VA even acknowledges with respect to those who opt in to this program. So technically it's not a mandatory thing for veterans to opt in for this enormous inspection. Now, one thing to note, though, is that the inspection may cost between $1,500 or $3,000 to get done, which is a lot more than most assessments that the VA requires. Additionally, it's going to increase a significant amount of time between the offer and the closing of the deal. It's going to cost quite a bit more. It may reduce the amount of money that the veteran spends because it's incorporated into any kind of estimate, may be incorporated into either an increase or a decrease in the amount of the earnings that the VA considers when they're evaluating when the underwriter and the VA are evaluating this type of system. So it's not mandatory, but what does happen though is all veterans then get pushed into this enhanced red tape stigma. There already is a stigma, folks. It's going to be even worse if this gets through. There can be really no question. No one else is doing it. It's going to push people further away from accepting veteran offers who use the VA home loan. At least that's my opinion. And I think that it's a bad move. It's definitely a bad move. And by the way, if that's not enough, the VA doesn't support this either. The VA doesn't want this done. So whatever staffer included this in there and then told the members that it's not controversial was sorely mistaken. It is most certainly controversial. The VA doesn't even support it. It doesn't appear that it's really been talked about. I did find one comment from VFW supposedly supporting it, but it doesn't look like VFW really understood what it was for. So they don't really build houses. So I suppose it is what it is. Again, one of the high level takeaways that I took from what VA provided me today through VA Public Affairs when I had asked for comment is that VA and most people support energy efficiency, but I don't support it on the backs of veterans. I don't support it when it increases red tape and decreases odds of veteran home ownership. I definitely don't support that. I don't support situations where what appears to be a special interest group, whether it's RESNET, although it does appear to be RESNET because they're named right in the legislation, but it appears that this sector of this type of like environmental enhancement is going to be benefited significantly. Veterans are going to have to pay for it. It's going to increase red tape. I'm not really clear where the win is. Now, today I was talking with another friend of mine over at the Richard Leonard Show about this, and one of the pieces of information that we were curious about is while they're spending all this time effectively increasing risk of stigmatization of veterans through more red tape in the VA home loan, why not focus on just removing the red tape? Everyone knows it's going on. All the realtors if you were to survey realtors, I would bet that 85% would say yes, there's absolutely a stigma when a veteran comes to the table trying to use the VA home loan. I think everyone is aware of that. Why not focus legislation on trying to remove the stigma so that more veterans can get into the home that they want rather than having to bounce around and make different offers and end up getting pushed out by conventional loans? It seems to me that there is a call there, or should be, if you want to increase veteran home ownership and utilization of these fantastic benefits, why not A, decrease red tape, B, increase incentives for individuals who are sellers So create some seller side incentivization so that they accept the offers. It could be just as simple as maybe a property tax rebate of some kind or discount, or some other kind of incentive on their federal tax returns for the next year. Why not do that? I mean, it seems like that would make sense. Increase veteran ownership of the homes that they want rather than having to bounce around, and hopefully eventually get somebody to feel sympathetic enough to you to accept your VA home loan, which again is an awesome benefit. It'd be great if the stigmas weren't around using the benefit. It'd be great to use it. So anyway, my feedback here and concern and why I wanted to run this out on this late hour of Friday is hoping that somebody sees this, because it doesn't appear that Congress, and particularly the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, is aware that some of the things that they're including in this, the Cleveland-Dole Act that they're looking at putting together here for a quick win, is actually controversial, and it's going to create more red tape impacting veteran home ownership. I don't know. They already did it with Section 217. Thankfully, that got removed. But whoever the staffers are that's trying to jam this stuff in without double checking, I just have some concerns about it. Again, the VA already said this shouldn't be pushed through. So it would be great if veteran interests were being put ahead of these special interests, especially environmental special interests from California. I can guarantee you most veterans do not support being shouldered with any burden of environmental anything from California. We don't want it. They can't even manage their own energy systems out there with rolling blackouts on a regular basis and every other issue that we're seeing coming out of California. I don't think veterans want that in their federal benefits. So California, keep your stuff in California. Don't foist it onto us in the federal government, us trying to use the benefits on a national basis. Keep it there. If you guys want to have California incentives for it, great. Do it in California, but don't wreck our own systems. The VA home loan system is precarious enough at times, and we want to make sure that the thing continues to work. So anyway, if you appreciate this, definitely want to check out my blog. Name's Ben Krause. I'm a veteran rights attorney and journalist. That's my blog, disabledveterans.org. If you have questions that are more of a legal manner, I am an attorney and a journalist, and so you can check out some of the information that we have at the law firm as well. But going back to the point here, what we're worried about is the Joseph Maxwell Cleland and Robert Joseph Dole Memorial Veterans Benefits and Healthcare Improvement Act of 2022 that they're trying to ram through right now. Don't ram it through. Take a second look at this. I don't think veterans are going to want this. A little common sense should suggest that this, when it comes to VA home loans, is a bad idea. Don't do it. Please don't do it. It's just a bad idea. The VA says don't do it. Maybe listen to the VA. I know usually I'm a critic of VA, but here I tend to agree with them. I appreciate, by the way, their folks over in VA Public Affairs today. They were very quick in getting back to me on a couple of these issues. And in this instance, I know I don't always come on the side of VA, but here I do. So I think that this is a bad idea. I think it's going to adversely affect veterans. I think that reforming their underwriting, if the system isn't broke, don't fix it. Leave it alone. To try to get at veterans benefits into further environmentalist agendas on the backs of vets, I think it's inappropriate. Do it in your own stuff. Stay out of our stuff. I think it's that simple. Anyway, I'm going to be writing about this and getting some comments from individuals that are in the field of construction and real estate and economic development. And otherwise, I hope y'all have a fantastic weekend. God bless. And I really hope that somebody reaches out to their respective senator and say, hey, this is bad. It could be really bad. I'm going to be posting the language of what they're supporting, but if you have a hard time finding it, you can just simply look up the HR 4657. Again, HR 4657, Veteran Home Energy Savings Act. The language is essentially verbatim of the language in that text. And so this is what they're, again, trying to get through right now to get a big win before Christmas. I'm all about big wins before Christmas. God knows I need a few of those all the time. But this is a bad move, and it's on the back of veterans. And I just don't support trying to further environmentalist agendas or any other agenda for that matter, on the back of veterans. We've seen it a couple times this year. I think it's inappropriate, and it's not the best venue for this. So we're going to be writing about it, getting the word out as best we can. We already got 217 kicked in the can. So you're welcome for any of you aspiring pilots out there. At least you can still go to a public institution and get your training covered as part of a degree-seeking program. So that's fantastic news. At least we got that much done. But I think a bigger problem here could be this attack on the VA home loan and this attempt to burden it with even more red tape, even when the VA says don't do it. So let's hope it doesn't get done. Otherwise, we'll have to fight some other way. Take care. Have a good one.